The education minister responds to several concerns by the Bahamas Union of Teachers.
The Minister of Health responds to accusations of there being a lack of medical personnel on the island of Abaco.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says he has asked the Attorney General to return to court in an effort to have the injunction blocking government from tearing down shanty towns lifted. His comments came as he wrapped up debate on the disaster preparedness bill in the House of Assembly this afternoon.
Break our laws. They are unsafe. They are unhealthy. They are health risk. And they are unhygienic. And therefore, I will ask the Attorney General to return the court to ask that the injunction be lifted.
With the death toll in the dozens and hundreds still unaccounted for, the Prime Minister told parliamentarians the Attorney General will return to court in an effort to lift the injunction blocking the removal of shanty towns in the country. The injunction was granted in August 2018 by Supreme Court Justice Cheryl Grant Thompson. The Prime Minister's announcement came amid public debate over the fate of migrants affected by Hurricane Dorian. Then there's the concern of volunteers and their immigration status.
Volunteers who are attached to international agencies will not experience any challenges as they are a part of international agencies, and they will be accommodated very quickly and rapidly. But we must be very careful that there can be unscrupulous individuals who would state that there are volunteers coming in to help rebuild, and they may not necessarily be volunteers.
However, as Minnis closed out debate on the disaster preparedness bill, theatrics quickly kicked off as he got into a back and forth with the opposition.
I'm say we. I did not say you. Mr. Speaker, I did not speak to the member of Anglican. When I said we, I was especially referencing myself because my shoes off, I'm comfortable standing. I don't want to be sitting all day up and down like quack, snapple pork.
It is a demeaning expression of what is legitimate positions taken by the opposition, Speaker. And I'm just reminding all of us we're in a serious forum, Speaker. That's all.
That argument went on for nearly half an hour. This time with House Speaker Halson Moultrie and Opposition Leader Philip Davis.
You rise on a point of order.
Yeah, I said.
So, which was improper.
Why, Mr. Speaker?
Because it wasn't a point of order.
Eventually, the Prime Minister went on to thank those who sprung into action during and after the storm to save lives, including officers of the Royal Bahamas Police Force and Defense Force. Now, as for the disaster preparedness bill, Minnis said the bill speaks to evacuation orders and puts certain powers in the hands of the Prime Minister.
Curfews and temporary restrictions on movement in the aftermath of disasters are just that. And such curfews, Mr. Speaker, are commonplace across the world in the aftermath of natural disasters.
Minnis said as of Tuesday, government has received $7,443,938.64 in donations to help with Hurricane Dorian relief. Well, the Bahamas could easily get a black eye from the international community if the government and its citizens do not make an effort to do the right thing regarding immigration, according to Anglican Bishop Lloyd, who asserted that the Bahamas would be set back if Haitian labor were removed from its society. His comments came during the Anglican Synod last night. Vonig 2 reports.
We would all want to get it right as we work to secure our borders. But we also want to get it right as we treat all people humanely and justly, whether they are documented or not.
The way we treat others who are different from us is the true mark of Christianity, according to Anglican Bishop Lloyd, who warned the Bahamas could get a bad rap in the international community regarding immigration in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. On October 11th, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights called on the Bahamas to stop deporting Haitians and other undocumented migrants without the individual assessments and due process guarantees to which they are entitled under international law.
Our country could easily get a black eye from the international community if we do not make the most valiant efforts as government and as citizens to do the right thing.
In recent weeks, government has faced backlash after announcing its intention to enforce immigration laws and deport undocumented migrants, even those impacted by Hurricane Dorian. Boyd renewed calls for the formation of a board or authority to monitor government's handling of this extremely sensitive matter.
In a post-hurricane environment like now, and in ordinary times, such a body is a necessity. That body could be tasked with the following: visiting the detention center and various shelters that house migrants, investigating reports of mistreatment and discrimination against migrants.
As concerns arise in these areas, Boyd says a report from such a body would be considered more credible in the international community than a report submitted by a government official. He insisted Haitian migrants bring value to Bahamian society.
It is not an exaggeration to say that if we were to remove the Haitian labor force from the Bahamas, we would be set back. That's not an exaggeration, because Haitians contribute in all areas of our society.
In fact, the Anglican Bishop asserted that Bahamians could learn something from many aspects of Haitian culture.
The vast majority of Haitians work extremely hard, and you don't see them hanging around the street begging like some of us. Their work ethic is good. They have a keen sense of family life, and they look after their children in a majority of cases. They attend PDA meetings when Bahamian parents do not. And many of their children excel academically.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Vonnie.
Well, Immigration Minister Ellsworth Johnson is defending the government's policy which requires volunteers assisting with storm relief efforts following Hurricane Dorian to have work permits. Johnson insisted the government still has a duty to protect the country's borders.
We still have an obligation to ensure that only fit and proper persons who in the best interest of peace, order, and good governance enter and leave the Bahamas. We have not just national obligations to ensure that right persons are here, but an international obligation, because, you know, we're dealing with the OECD and the Financial Action Task Force, and we're saying to the world that we can account for persons coming and going.
Johnson said once volunteers provide the National Emergency Management Agency or the Department of Immigration with a proper explanation on their relief work in the Bahamas, the government will continue to grant the permits.
Around the world, after devastations, you've had persons who came and they did not have proper intentions. Women and children were hurt. Now, the Bahamas is still inviting persons to come. We are asking you to go through NEMA, as all of the international organizations, they presented their credentials to NEMA. But persons are now coming and going directly to the Immigration Department. The policy is if you put a cogent, fit and proper explanation to the Immigration Department that you're not here to displace Bahamians from working, you're here genuinely to provide a service to assist. In those circumstances, we have the authority to exercise our discretion, and we have been doing that.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed a case of malaria in the Bahamas. Officials say a 26-year-old resident of the Bahamas who recently traveled to Europe and Africa showed up at a local hospital on Sunday with several symptoms, including fever, headache, vomiting, and diarrhea. Blood samples taken from the man tested positive for malaria. Health officials say the patient has commenced treatment, continues to be closely monitored, and remains isolated until his condition improves. Well, a 24-year-old man was stabbed to death last night during an altercation with 3 other men. Police say the incident took place in the All Saints Way shantytown off Golden Isles Road.
Upon arrival of the police and EMS personnel, the victim was examined. He was lifeless. Information received is that Shortly before that time, the victim, along with a group of men, were involved in an altercation, which resulted in the victim being stabbed to the chest. At this time, the suspects are not in custody. We are requesting assistance from this community that would be able to assist us with this matter.
According to Our News records, Monday night stabbing death was the 87th homicide for 2019. Bosfield gave this information on the suspects.
We have information that is 3 men who he had an altercation with, and we are now doing that inquiries to find out the name.
Education Minister Geoffrey Lloyd is slamming teachers who have refused to teach at 2 schools, citing poor management and adverse working conditions. Lloyd says he is deeply disappointed by their actions, which have impacted students. Jillian Gray has more.
Minister of Education Geoffrey Lloyd was frank in his comments today as he said the Bahamas Union of Teachers must follow proper protocol when dealing with grievances.
I don't think there's a Richter scale that measures my disappointment.
The minister was responding to the fallout between educators at Carleton E. Francis and their principal, as well as the more than 3-week sit-in at C.H. Reeves.
It is unfair to our children, it's unfair to their parents, it's unfair to the system. There is a process. That process was agreed. If that process no longer serves the purpose for which it was originally agreed, then let's sit down and let's come to an agreement. But you cannot take it upon yourself to withhold your labor, leave classes unattended, without even the notice that there is a concern or is a challenge, and not respect the agreement. We have an agreement.
Lloyd said the ministry is willing to work with teachers to satisfy their demands, but said educators must respect the industrial agreement. He added he is deeply disturbed and troubled that students are missing out on crucial time in the classroom.
Every day that a student is deprived of any instruction, critical instruction, we already have only 180 days to fulfill our curriculum requirement in this country. We need more like 200 days, but we have 180. So every day that a student is deprived of this very important and critical instructional time, that's of course a concern to us.
The Ministry of Education has filed a trade dispute against the BUT in the case of Carleton E. Francis, and at C.H. Reeves, they're working on resolving the issue of classroom space so that teachers won't have to rotate classrooms. At both C.H. Reeves and the Holmes Rock School in Grand Bahama, there have been complaints of mold. However, Lloyd said while they have sent teams to investigate both matters, those claims must be taken with a grain of salt.
Whomever makes a complaint that there are molds, when we have no scientific proof that it is. And what we have found over the last couple of years is when people complain that there is mold, what in fact it is dust.
With the influx of students who were affected by Hurricane Dorian registering at schools in New Providence, the BUT has also raised concerns about insufficient furniture. The education minister said they're working with NGOs to provide desks and chairs, which will be installed next week. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Still to come, the health minister denies reports of insufficient medical support in Abaco. Plus, national honors for Shawnee Miller-Weebo. Stay tuned.